So, I've been thinking a lot lately about all the photos I've taken on film, all the memories that I have had printed, those moments in time that I want to appreciate more, those memories I want to lament in and never fade. Over 10 years ago, when my local all-ages youth venue closed, a group of us created our own all-ages youth venue, and for 2 years we ran it with a lot of success, till our growing lives all took us in different directions, doing some even bigger shows than we'd ever experienced before. Hamish is one of the founders of our group. He had come down from Wellington and we quickly adopted him, and he became a vital member. Hamish had wanted to be in a band, and when he left back for Welly, he formed one. Tonight is that band's last show. His band was called Happy Valley, and I was quite taken aback with just how good this band was. I had attended some of their early shows, which I shot with my only camera at this time, this horrible point and shoot. Later on, when I'd got a more decent SLR, this Konica Minolta 500 SI, we're at the Newtown Festival that Hamish had set up a stage for local heavy bands to play in, I'd got these shots of his band, which I still overall think are the most consistent band shots I've ever taken on a roll of film. It does help that they were taken in the daylight. Now is the band's last show, so I thought I could come on by and get a few shots, and create another video where I experiment with shooting bands on film. Previously, I've shot on both pushed HP5 and pushed 800T and Delta 3200 on my Mamiya C220. This time, I'm going to use flash to get the shot. With hardcore punk shows, you often are not going to get a purpose-built venue, and they are very DIY, which means the lighting is usually worse than normal. So I really wanted to shoot with a flash to see if I could use it on film when the lighting isn't the best, as you simply cannot push film in a low light scenario as you can with a modern digital camera. I've never shot with flash before on any of my film cameras, bar my point and shoot, which has no real controls. It's been years since I've used a flash, with me using it more than a decade ago when I was starting out shooting shows. As you can see by these photos, it can create some really unique looking images. I don't own any external working flashes that I know that are working. Luckily for me, my favourite 90s camera, the Minolta 500 SI, has a built-in flash. So, I researched what its sync speed is, which is 1/90, which whilst not fast, would have to suffice. I also found out that this sync speed is the max speed that you can shoot at, but that does mean that you can actually shoot at slower speeds. But I didn't muck around much with changing the shutter speed. For the most part, I just monitored my light meter and tried to make my compositions work, often with a very open aperture. Before the show really started, I ran into Matthew and Georgia, two friends of mine from different parts of my life, who I didn't know would be at the show. You will see both of them in future videos. I used them for testing my metering, as they were more stationary subject matter than the band. I got this photo of Georgia, who is no longer a young whippersnapper at these hardcore shows anymore. Georgia flew up to see this show and support Hamish. She was in many ways the founder of our youth venue that we all ran back in the day. As I was approaching the venue, I ran into Matthew, who I always run into when I'm out shooting a project for some reason. I got this test shot outside the venue. I then took this indoor shot. Photos like this one are the reason why I'm wanting to try flash photography. Matthew had bought some toy cameras to shoot with, which one day I will get to see the results. To learn how to shoot bands that applies to literally any kind of gig, digital or film. Usually bands are less energetic at the start of a set, so if you have a slower lens like this telephoto, this is the perfect time to use it. My main focus was to see if I could get a shot of Hamish, as he's my friend but also the vocalist, who are usually in the best well-lit position. Though they move quite a bit, so it's hard, but as I said just before, at the start of a set, they don't move as much. Though they do move a little bit, but I did manage to get this shot. I then moved over to the other side of the room to see if I could get a better angle, and at this point in the set, it wasn't too chaotic to cross around the floor. Be like this guy, dancing around in his own unique way. Do the same with your art. With some of these photos, I quite like the drag effect the flash has, and I could see this being quite cool at a very well lit venue, shooting with 800T, but you'll just have to wait till the next gig video. I then swapped over from my 35 to 210 zoom lens to my 28mm prime lens. I wanted to give myself as much light as possible going through the lens to the film, as well as getting shots of the whole band. I think on one of these I accidentally closed the flash. I also tried to shoot without looking through the lens to some mixed results. I then switched back to the other side. I think every gig photographer will choose a favourite side for their venue. Mine tends to be on the right. I don't know why this is, maybe it's because I'm right-handed, but it just always happens to be that side when I think about every venue that I've shot here in Wellington in the past 4 years. Yeah, none of us knew what the hell this move was in the pit. And yes, my flatmate is right. Fire the cameraman, but to be fair, I was trying to get this shot. I really wanted to get some shots with the crowd to give the viewer an idea of the energy that these shows are filled with, and to see if I could get a crowd shot usually I cannot get with film cameras, as the crowd is just usually too dark. I also made sure to spend time getting photos of the drummer, as usually with most of the venues these days, I'm not in a position to get good photos of the drummer, in particular when I'm shooting on film. I think overall, I'm quite happy with how these turned out. Overall, this was a more successful experiment of shooting gigs with film. Whilst not the sharpest images, it definitely proves that using a flash may be the way to go for my future film gig photo projects, which is slightly odd as it's really calling to a time long gone since past. I think I'd like to take this further with some of my medium format cameras, but also some much sharper lenses on my other 35mm cameras, and non-expired T-Max 3200, yes, this was expired film, to give myself sharper, more detailed images. I will also see if I can get myself a stronger flash, so I don't have to open up as much. I hope for some watching this video it harkens back to a day not too long since past, but for others I hope it incentivizes them to try something new that they've never tried before. This is my first gig project video where I didn't have my digital camera as a backup or on me at all. I think those days are now since past. For the most part though, I did have 36 exposures, and until I get my gig film shooting to a higher hit ratio, 36 exposures is not really enough to be able to get a decent amount of keepers. For now, it will have to do. I made sure to save my last 2 shots. One was the band together. Whilst not perfect, after all, they look exhausted. I hope this photo serves them well when they're looking back. I hope they all find new projects that fulfill them like this band has. This final photo was of Hamish, who I gave one of my spare Minolta zoom lenses to, the very one I used at the start of this gig. Hamish has been shooting a bit of film, and I can't wait to see what photos he takes with this in the future. This was a fun show, and was an informative lesson for me, and hopefully for you. Anyways, as always, until next time.